expect to outwork your inefficiencies. And so when I was brand new, we had nothing. We had no publication. We had no business model. We had no track record of success. We had nothing to draw from. So we had to draw from work ethic.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Remington Ramsey, and today my guest is the co-founder of Into Publishing. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's the publishing company that publishes Real Producer magazine. Mr. Earl Seals, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thanks, Ramsey. Good to see you again.
We had Dwayne on a couple episodes ago, and I told people that when I tell people that Into is founded by Dwayne and Earl, it sounds like a hillbilly podcast. And Dwayne took offense to that, but I think you, with your farming background, you kind of resonate with that.
He actually took offense to that. That's amazing. Matter of fact, recently, Nick Matheny, he said they were having a new baby a few years ago, and he said, we're going to name our child. It's a little boy. And I'm like, no, what is it? He said, Durrell. We decided to name him Durrell. That was crazy, man. Crazy.
Well, you've got your own story of success, even outside of Into, with a lot of things that have happened with your own personal health and just triumph and growing a big, beautiful family now. Where I'd really like to talk about, start with you today is just the birth of Into. Now, there's a lot of things that went into before you guys started, but when you start a company that's now $150 million company, it's interesting to talk about where it started, because I think with our listeners being realtors, primarily, when you get into real estate, you have all these dreams of success, and it doesn't typically go as fast as you might want it to. And so when you guys quit your day jobs and decided to chase this entrepreneurial dream, the first 5 years, at least on paper, when you look at the numbers, can kind of look like a struggle. So go back in time with me when you and Dwayne decided to jump into this entrepreneurial roller coaster, and talk to me about the first 5 years of creating Into.
Yeah, it doesn't kind of look like a struggle or kind of look like a nightmare. It is. It's kind of like taking off a huge airplane, a 747. And what I mean by that is, if you kind of try something, it doesn't work. And so, and I know, Remington, I don't know what you share on this, but you know that I am a Christian. And so I have a faith background, and my faith background drives a lot of my actions. And so as I was very prompted to start Into, that along with that meant sacrifice, like sell your house. I lived in maybe 8,000 or 10,000 square foot house in St. Louis in a prestigious neighborhood, driving my Platinum Edition GS 300 Lexus. So it was nice, all that stuff. And 4 kids in private school. And if you're going to start over from scratch, what does that mean? I said, if I used to take Tara and I used to have Friday afternoons for sushi, which is my wife. And I said, hey, sweetie, we're going to change some things, which is selling the house. We're moving into a 2,000 square foot rental house, selling my car, buying a used Mazda Protege, a 1996 Mazda Protege. Moving, just reprioritize, no more sushi on Fridays. It was a big sacrifice. And when we started, it was all in every way. So it took 3 years. I mean, it was, how do you do it? I think as a real estate agent or anybody else, you better expect to outwork your inefficiencies. And so when I was brand new, we had nothing. We had no publication. We had no business model. We had no track record of success. We had nothing to draw from. So we had to draw from work ethic. And that's where I just rolled up my sleeves. I said, I'm going to drop off the kids at 7:45. I'm going to be at the espresso shop at 8 a.m. I'm going to leave at 8:15. At 8:30, I got a little teeny, what is that called? EDC, Economic Development Center. You could rent this little teeny office space. So I went there, and at 8:30, I sat down and reviewed what mattered in life and to me and what I was working towards. And at 9 o'clock, you just don't call me, don't bother me, don't bug me, get out of the way. And I'm not quitting until 6 p.m. every single day, Monday through Friday. Now, I know that that's different in certain industries. In other words, you don't have the luxury of working just business hours. But I had 4 kids in 4 years, 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old. And You either
those are nerve-wracking ages to start something new, because that's where I'm at right now. I've got 6, 5, and 4.
Yeah.
And that would be very nerve-wracking to say, hey, we're gonna sell everything. Now, did you sell all your toys to create capital for the business, or did you just knew, hey, it'd be a while before we turn profit, so here's our money?
Yeah, there was a conviction associated with that, but I don't want to over spiritualize things, Remington. But the reality is inside of me, I knew that I didn't have the luxury of carrying a $4,000 a month mortgage, plus the electric, plus the gas, plus the property taxes, plus, and you just don't have the luxury of doing that when you're starting over from scratch. And so there was I don't know how to explain this any simpler, a conviction. This is what I need to do. And I knew that that was absolutely true. The hard part is not what you know is true. The hard part is the courage to do what you know is true. And so it took me a solid, 6 months of wrestling before I finally did that. And then I was very, very glad that I did. Anyway, so yeah, selling the house, taking out the equity, and cashing out everything. Because like I said, you don't know that initially. At least God didn't allow me to know the pain and suffering I was going to go through. Or I don't know that I would have done it, because it was so incredibly hard. So when we started, it took 3 full years. I want you to imagine this. So you start brand new, you're working, you have a proof of concept, people are buying ads, but then along the way, you have to hire staff. You have to build, you have to get an office building. We had what's called outsourced printing. And outsourced printing, our publications would never be on time. So Remington, you had real producers. So because of that, I would say you could personally testify to the reality that if your publication is supposed to show up February 1st, it always shows up around that time pretty consistently. Yep. It's like clockwork. Well, ours, if my publication was supposed to land January 1st, it may not show up until February 1st or February 20th or March 15th. And so we had no consistency with our product. And so what did that mean? I mean, if you've never went out and bought your own printer, I'm not talking about the office printer you have in your office. Yeah. Our first one was $450,000.
Yeah.
We had to take a loan for that. Then we had to get accounting software or software that would actually work. So Remington, you're out selling an ad, and you had to figure out how to get that ad designed, into the publication, get it printed all seamlessly with accounting and everything else. So we ended up building our own software package for $250,000. I remember Tara and I, Dwayne and Rebecca, had to sign a 4-signature loan. Long story made short, 2.5 full years. So summer of 2004. January, I could look it up on my computer. I saw it the other day, my bank statement for January of 2007. We had a $50,000 line of credit, and we were negative $49,242 in our bank.
And that was 2.5 years in.
2.5 years in.
Now, is it still you and Dwayne at this point, or have you made a hire yet?
We've had a couple of people, just a few here and there. But no, we were effectively $750,000 in debt in 2.5 years, and had not made one penny. Sold everything that we owned. Been working for free for 2.5 years.
Okay, now let me ask you something. In that moment, though, because that sounds like a pretty painful moment. The fact that you even remember the dollar, like you have it saved. Yeah. In that moment, were you still, this is going to work, this is what God wants me to do, or were you panicking at this point?
Well, you had a lot of problems. I mean, the answer is there was a positive conviction. So I would pray, and more likely the actual word is cry. I remember standing in church crying, saying, God, I'm so afraid. And I remember his voice so clearly say, trust me. It was just trust me. And I was like, I do trust you, but I'm still afraid, because I was afraid. And so that's the part where you mobilize your activity. You're either paralyzed by it or you're mobilized by it. For me, it mobilized me. But no, I had a conviction. Don't give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep fighting. So because technically it was working. What I mean by that is when I went out my first month, I sold 22 ads in the first month by myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you realize, okay, proof of concept, a target market. These are good. These are the people I want to reach.
Yeah.
Businesses are willing to give me money to reach those people. So it's a simple concept.
Well, one thing you said, sorry to interrupt, but one thing you said that's always stuck with me, and I really believe this in pretty much any business, is that if you can prove it one time, you can do it 100 times. If you can do 100 times, you can do 1,000 times. Yeah. And then at that point, you're just figuring out, okay, where are the bottlenecks of our systems or our people? Like if we can prove the sales, if we can make it happen and convince other people that this is as good as what we say it is, then now it's a problem of systems and growing with people. So you have proven the concept. Now it's time to refine.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. So that was it. So 2.5 years later, but then of course, even if you are making money, which technically I think actually we were making money, but the reality is 100% of the money was going back into the business.
Right.
That was the hard part. Until I remember the summer of 2007, almost, I would say accurate to almost to the day. I don't know the exact day, but God would know this. It was probably the exact same day that we started 3 years later that Dwayne and I first got our paycheck, which was $4,000 each. I got $4,000, he got $4,000, and that's our first capital that we received.
And was that, are you out of debt at that point, or are you still in debt?
Oh, no. Oh no, we're not. We're not out of debt. We still have the 750,000 on the books that we still owe back to design to website companies and printing company printers and Hewlett Packard, wherever they are. So yeah, we had a ton of debt, but you just had to fight through that for the next number of years. And today we're debt free.
Yeah,
as you know. And
so at what point? So your first 5 years, at least on paper, seem like, hey, you started to figure it out. I think if I'm looking at the graph, the graphic's not in front of me, but like in year 5, it was like around 7 million. And so when you have that, how many people are you still paying? How many mouths are you feeding at this point? Because at some point you transition from drop shipping to actually owning your own printer to hiring your own staff instead of using outsourced graphics. And so now you are paying people internally. When did you actually start to see, hey, we can scale this business?
Yeah, I don't know the answer. I know that the first year, Dwayne and I basically by ourselves sold $1 million in advertising. Because it was all on invoice, we only collected 300,000. So step number 1, you're like, oh crap, that's dumb. Don't do that. So that's when we got credit card processing.
Yeah.
And then we went 1 million to, or 300,000 collected to 1.2 million to 3 million, to 6 or 7 million to 14 to 22 to 40 to 60 to 90, or actually it was 101, I think, million, maybe just over 100 million. Now we're at about 150 million over that 20-year period of time. I don't know the staff count. I know that we currently have about 350 employees, and I'm going to say 500 plus franchises, 800, 900 different magazines across America, or specialty publications across America.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just here's the rule I figured out. Go sell a lot. If you sell a lot, you have capital to hire people that you need. So that's the simple reality.
Well, when I came to you and Dwayne, you guys had already experienced success. The company was humming. It was approaching $100 million.
Oh, okay.
And so, this is where our stories intersect, because for me, I was selling closing gifts to realtors, and I said, hey, I'm putting all my money back into marketing. I don't even know which realtors are the top realtors. It'd be really cool if we could have a program where we actually sorted out the top realtors who could afford my gifts and bring them to events. And then I started a digital newsletter. That was terrible. I sent out an email to all my clients and had a realtor of the week, and it lasted all of like 1 month. And my buddy who was working for you at the time was making good money and had a really cool product that was going to affluent neighborhoods. And so your flagship product was, affluent neighborhoods and businesses that want to reach the affluent. And I thought, realtors are kind of a community already. What if we had a product that would like strengthen the community of realtors and actually bring the top realtors to the top? And obviously there's a little bit more that goes into that. But when I approached you guys, I think the reason why it took off more so than maybe other products that we've tested is because it is pretty much exactly what you do, just with a community of realtors instead of a community of the affluent. And so appreciation marketing, what I appreciate about you guys is that we didn't have to print and wait for months for it to be delivered. We didn't print inverted colors and upside down ads. Like, you guys got all those kinks out in those first 10 years. So when we came to you, it was pretty seamless. And that's why it was able to grow. Super thankful for the opportunity. And, within the first year, the one qualm I had, Earl, is we didn't think to actually have a sample. So I'm sitting there with dogs on the cover, trying to explain to people like what the Realtor magazine is going to be about, and sold $500,000 worth of ads to people who just had believed in the vision. And it was probably a smaller version of what you went through the 10 years before that, creating a vision with something that didn't exist. And now we've got 10 years of a track record, but it's been a wild ride. But thank you for sharing the first 5 years. That's, I think people can resonate with that, where it's just like, man, you have these dreams of what it will be. And in year three, you still haven't even turned a profit. Now you're massively in debt, and all you have to go off of is this, again, dream and the story of success of the sales to go off of. Mm-hmm. I think that's pretty, you can see that in a lot of different businesses. What's the, before we transition into a different topic that I'm kind of excited to dig in with you, what's the vision for the future for N2? So now you've got a handful of products. You are an umbrella company to a bunch of different products now, digital marketing and some of these other things. What's the vision long term?
Boy, long term, that probably the most frustrating thing for me is knowing that we could be a multi-billion-dollar company. When you realize from media, there's an unlimited opportunity in media alone. The hard part for all of us that are listening to this is, what exactly do you do and how do you do it? And so a lot of that is driven, or success is built on failure, unfortunately. So I would say what we do know is that a handful of us got together and built a $150 million company. So why can a handful of us not to get together and build another $150 million company? And so I would say accurately, we've got everything from an entrepreneurial infused energy that we want to bring back into the N2 family, just like what Remington, the partnership that we created between N2 Corporate and Remington, and what you built with RP was an entrepreneurial infused energy. You didn't have to spend all your energy on accounting, printing, streaks in a publication, collections, all that crap. You got to focus on building teams. And that's where the partnership worked. And so I would like, and I think we're leaning this direction now, which is taking strong individuals like yourself and then empowering them to lead and to build. And so that would be one element that will help. A second element, of course, is acquisitions and different things like that are bolt-on acquisitions that fit, and strategic partnerships, by the way. What you did is you came in and built a strategic partnership with them too. So when you have a good idea, sometimes you can find a partner that will help you get there. And so if we can find additional strategic partners, here would be another task. I know this is not your heart, but how many independent publishers are there in the United States? Has to be nothing less than 10,000. Mm-hmm. So why don't all 10,000 work with us? That's what my mind says. And so that's what I would love to
That's dreaming big.
Yeah, I'd like to pursue that.
Well, your success has given you a platform. We say it all the time. Success gives you a platform to impact people in a way that truly matters. And one thing that a lot of people don't know about you is your involvement with The Chosen, which, if you haven't heard of The Chosen, it is the most successful crowd-funded entity of all time across any platform, which is incredible. And one of the reasons The Chosen, decided to do that is to control the content in a world where it seems like everyone's getting censored or canceled. And so, Earl, it was during COVID shutdown. I actually had COVID when I first started watching The Chosen. And I'm like suffering and dying on my bed. Truly, like it was brutal for me. And I'm watching, and the second episode comes on, and I'm watching the credits, because I like that. I'm weird like that. I have to watch the entire thing. I want to hear the music at the beginning. It gets me jacked for the episode. And all of a sudden it says Earl Seals across the top, executive producer. And I'm like, no, that can't be my Earl Seals. So then I text you and you're like, yeah, I'm doing stuff with this. And it turns out you're, and I don't want to give away everything, but like essentially your life group, the people that you went to church with are the core group of people that actually created The Chosen. You've been an active part of this. Can you kind of give us an inside scoop of like how that whole thing got birthed?
Yeah, I had to really wrestle through that. I can't take a lot of credit. God formed me, sent me to Chicago to go to Moody Bible Institute. Ended up going to church at a place called Harvest Bible Chapel. From there, a man named Dallas Jenkins, who is really the creator of The Chosen, one of the heavy hitters of that. His dad is Jerry Jenkins, which is a famous author. So he's had the art, whatever you want to call that, film and production background and media background. And his heart was movies. He had created a number of movies prior to starting on this project. As a matter of fact, the one prior to this was what was called Gavin Stone, the resurrection of Gavin Stone. I put a lot of money into that, and it was 100% failure. It was a complete bust. And you realize that there's 3,500 plus movies created every year. And so you and I only know of 20 of them at the most. Right. And so it's very, very hard to make it in the movie industry. And so after that tremendous loss, and Dallas being a very close friend, comes to me and says, I have another idea. And so the idea was, what about building a multi-season, multi-episode season of the life of Christ and the disciples in the New Testament? And it makes sense. I have to admit, I was somewhat weary and somewhat like, I don't know, bro. I don't want to tell you guys how much money I lost, but it was a lot. And I don't know, but okay, let's try. Really, it came down to let's try again. I have to be fair about this, and we all have to be fair about this. God really had to put Dallas, I think accurately, Dallas in the right position emotionally and spiritually, to where it wasn't about him. It wasn't about Hollywood. It wasn't about fancy hair and ego. He had to get him prepared for the weight of what was to come. And the weight of what was to come is that we shot what's called The Shepherd. As a matter of fact, tonight, you and I and Kelsey and my wife and a few others are going to go see what's called The Shepherd. It was the first production of The Chosen. It was the preemptive production. So it was about how the shepherd, how they saw Christ, the shepherds coming to Christ. And that was shot on my farm in Chicago. So that was the beginning of it. That was an $80,000.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was an $80,000 production. So that wasn't very much. And so, but we fought and we did that and we got it all together. And that was the catalyst, the foundation by which we then rolled into using that model of, this is the quality of production we want to use for the life of Christ. So then it's kind of like you have a sample, right? And so then people began to give a lot of money towards that. We raised, I think, 13 million, 10, 12, 13 million, crowdfunded.
How did you guys get the word out for that? Outside of using just crowd sourcing products, like how did you get the word out for people to give?
Well, once again, I can't take any credit to this. I stepped into a little bit of the financial gap and the advisory gap to keep the rails, the cart on or the train on the rails. Dallas is a master at creator, but didn't have a lot of the business experience. Well, there's another guy that came into play. His name's Daryl Ives. If you've heard of the name Mr. Beast and some of those YouTube people, he's the one that creates a big majority of all the superstars on YouTube. Wow. So Daryl Ives, being a Christian, saw this production, The Shepherd, and saw what it could be as well. But his expertise is in marketing. It's that simple. He gets it, and he knows how to get in front of you, get in front of those who have a faith background. And so he knows how to put that in front of people, and that he was masterful in creating that reality. And so that was the precipice, along with some of the Harmon brothers out in Salt Lake City. So those pieces came together to raise the $10, $12 million that we needed to get it started. So then after we got it started, it was a success, all by God's favor and God's hand. That was season one. Now, the hard part that you don't realize is that in everything, for some reason, it continues to compound. It went from 10 million for the first production to 15, 16 million for the second one, to 22 million for season 3. And then this last one was 40 million for season 4.
Now, why does that happen? Because are you getting more extravagant with the sets? Are you paying the actors more? Why does it raise like that?
Yeah, God's awesome. I mean, we partnered with Salvation Army. That sounds odd, doesn't it? Salvation Army has 1,000-acre camp in Dallas, Texas. And we leased 100 or 150 acres of that for a long-term lease. I think it's a 100-year lease, which then, by the way, you have to ask, where do you shoot this type of thing? So when you see season 3 and season 4, we had to build a first century city with water and docks and all that type of stuff. That was a $25 million project.
Yeah.
And then unions. So the Union Actors Guild. So once season 1 kicked off, it had some success. And then season 2 really perpetuated that success. The obvious, hey, I want more money, because I think almost every actor, if not every actor that was on that was no name, unknown.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they start becoming known. Then they have agents. Then everybody wants more money. And that perpetuated that reality. And so now it's just a huge, huge production.
It truly is an incredible show. When I watch it, one thing that I appreciate, because, studying scripture for years, sometimes the disconnect is trying to really put yourself in the shoes of the people, because there's so much of a cultural difference, not only between cultures, but time frames. But when I watch the show, I actually feel the pain. I put myself in their shoes. Like I feel like I could be one of these people, and it really brings scripture to life. And that's one thing that, across any movie or a depiction of biblical times, I've never seen anything quite like this. And it got me thinking, the guy that plays Jesus, is it Jonathan Rumi? Is that his name?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you've got because I feel like the Passion of Christ, the actor that played him, I can't remember at this moment, also on the Count of Monte Cristo, when you play the Christ, but you've been in a ton of different roles, no one's expecting you to be like that. But I feel like since he's such a new actor on the scene, it would be very easy for people to forget he's just an actor. He's actually depicting Christ. He's got a very big outside of the role, just walking the streets. You've got a pretty big reputation there. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I would say the word awful.
Yeah.
And people are coming up to him saying, will you touch me? And can I touch your garment? I mean, he's just like, bro, I'm just a person, man.
Yeah.
So people really get out of alignment with that reality.
Yeah. Well, reeling it back in, it really truly is a blessing. It's an incredible show. I hope it has many seasons to come, and I hope Dallas can and everyone involved can use it to bring other parts of scripture to life. Just been pretty incredible. But I thought that was a pretty cool part of your story, Earl. You're pretty loaded. You've had your hands on a lot of different things, and God has blessed you and your business and allowed you to do so. I do want to end with a pretty funny story that I just remembered. You talked about filming the first couple episodes on your farm in Chicago. I've been to that farm. And one of my favorite stories about Earl is we went. He used to take a couple people from Into and the partnerships and go hunting. And there was about 4 of us guys who went hunting up in his farm. And so the first day you go pheasant hunting. That's a lot of fun. Take the little short hairs out there, and it's a little less involved than goose hunting, where we created blinds. And he got me up well before I wanted to. We go and we're decorating these blinds, and we're trying to blend in, and we're setting up for what feels like an hour in the most the brutal cold weather. We finally get ourselves tucked into these blinds, these glorified sleeping bags that have no warmth at all to them. And after an hour, and Earl's rushing us the whole time too, by the way. Earl's very serious about his hunting. So you want to get in the blinds before the birds are flying over, because otherwise it's just, what's the point? You've ruined your opportunity to hunt. So we finally get all wrapped up. He's like, we're throwing corn stalks and all this stuff. And then we get all bundled up, and we look, and within 60 seconds of us lying in these blinds, getting ready to shoot, we look across, and I kid you not, I probably maybe 2 football fields away is a neighborhood that has houses, and our guns would totally reach them if we were shooting in that direction. And we're all kind of staring, and I'm kind of thinking through, man, can my gun hit that. And about that time, in the blind next to me, I hear Earl go, "Well, shoot." It was the funniest thing. And so we spent all that time setting those blinds. So then we had to like face the other way. That was such good times, good memories, Earl.
Yeah, I'm sure we got some, didn't we?
Yeah, we all argued about. I think we got 2, and we argued about who actually hit it. But that was a good time. Well, Earl, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate your leadership, not only in Into, but also the community. Just again, like I said, because of your success and entrepreneurial pursuits, it's given you a platform to impact people in a way that you believe truly matters, and you're doing that on a regular basis. So, thanks for your leadership in the industry.
Well, thank you, Remington.
That's our show. If we are not in your territory for Real Producers, you could be the person that brings us to your territory. So check us out at realproducersmag.com, attend your local events, and talk to your local publishers. We'll see you next time.